right, hello everyone, and welcome again to PF Connect. Today is all about how tech will shape the future of real estate. And sometimes when we talk about technology, we kind of like refer to the digital life and digital life only. I guess that's thanks to our mobile phones, because we're with them most of the time. But it's actually both about digital and the physical space, because there's a lot of technology that's happening in the physical real estate world as well. So right now we're going to talk about both online and the physical part. Now, let's start with you, Himanshu. So I'm a big believer that without trust, there's no trade. Can you tell us a little bit about what is happening today in technology to enable trust and transparency?
Absolutely. As I think Sylvia mentioned, I have many axes, and some of the things that I learned from those axes is actually trust is cornerstone in any industry, and especially in real estate. As you build a bigger platform, trust is something that you can seed into your platform. For example, some of the growth drivers for real estate industry is using proper AI, and actually, using market insights to connect with your internal data and creating that platform that allows you to access the power of AI rather than you are just depending on it. Compliance keeps all of us safe. It governs the rule of the marketplace. So I think we have to create transparent marketplace. And last is data democratization. So as we all know, Dubai and UAE is world's real estate market. So actually what happens is everybody is looking at it. So you will actually see a lot of people looking at it, properties in Dubai. I'm looking. And actually what happens is if there is no trust, then people who are not aware of this market would actually not transact here. So trust is very paramount. And I think technology is the democratization force.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, Greg, let's move into, you're managing one of the largest funds in your area, if not the largest. And sometimes, the future is already here. It's just not equally distributed, right? So you must be seeing a lot of future happening in buildings, in sustainability, in real estate in general. Let's stick to today. What is happening today in your area that you would like to share with the audience from a technology point of view?
Sure, and maybe I'll start by framing a little bit, the reasons why we do what we do is, I think it's always useful for everyone to realize real estate is the largest industry in the world. It's a 380 trillion industry. It's more than the entirety of stocks, bonds, gold, and crypto combined. It happens to be one of the least digitized industry globally. I think bar some parts of agriculture and hunting, believe it or not, it is the least digitized industry globally. And is the most polluting industry by far, representing about 40% of greenhouse gas emission. Not enough people know it. We still hear about people complaining about the emissions of the aviation sector. Aviation is 2%, real estate is 40%. So I always like to start by framing this because not enough people realize. And I think it's important for the stakeholders in this room to realize that as leaders in the industry, they have a great role to play as agent of change in technology and sustainability. So coming back to your point, I think the challenges that we face today, given how antiquated real estate has been historically, is finding the balance between backing innovation that you can use today to solve tomorrow's problem, but also thinking about the leaps forward into 5-10 years from now. So if you dissect the industry into its life cycle, so think about the materials that go into buildings, think about the process around design, architecture, and engineering, the construction of a building, and then everything that happens once a building is built, the operation, the management, the sale, etc. Every step of the way of the life cycle of an asset today has tremendous opportunity to digitize. Digitization has been quasi-absent from pretty much any aspects of the market, and I think people here are pretty spoiled because the situation in the UAE and Dubai, I think, is very advanced compared to some parts of the market that we see in Europe, for example. And so there is a lot of data, automation, and transparency that is the foundational layer of a better industry. And only when you have that, you can start building kind of a more progressive industry that will eventually become fully automated, or transaction could be one click of a button, or sustainability becomes at the forefront. So the stuff that we invest that does that now is simple tools around property management, to automate work stream, to enable a live collaboration, to gather data and effectively more systematic approach to property management, property operation, and for example, asset management. These are some examples.
Right, okay. All right, thank you. So the two very interesting things that you shared are, obviously, real estate is the largest asset class in the world, which is not so surprising if you think about it, but we don't think of it that way. It's much larger than any other asset. And two, it's 40% of the global emissions. Like, you know, we think about cars and flights and so forth. 40% is real estate. That's fascinating. And the technology that's coming is all exciting. Now, Himanshu, so let's look at a little bit like into the future, not too far out, but like, you know, 3 to 5 years. There's a lot happening right now. You know, AI is coming. Everyone is talking about AI and, you know, obviously data. And we're very fortunate that, you know, UAE is at the forefront of all this. So what are some of the stuff that you think we're going to see in the next 3 to 5 years?
One of the things that I actually can see is AI is just kind of getting started because all the building blocks are in place. So some of the things that I definitely see in 2 to 3 years, for example, that pertains to our world, you know, you could think about automated, you know, listing, performance management from agent side, from consumer side. You could actually start seeing, you know, people using far more AI in their searches. So what happens is, you know, then the experiences that you build needs to be AI, you know, enabled. Some of the compliance management can actually happen automatically. So AI can be actually rule engine that automatically look at your listings, look at questionable data in listing, allow you to automatically modify that, and, you know, allow you to publish faster, agent productivity, and some of the things that we every day talk about it. I think I can see already on the horizon. But one thing with AI that we can actually tell is what you thought come in 10 years can come in 2 years. So we all have to be prepared and partner with you know, technology so that you actually are not left behind. And I really think that you know, what you talked about, sustainability. So when consumers are going to look for it, they may be now searching for, you know, different kind of lens where new millennials are actually going to buy properties and they will have different mindset than the previous generation. So AI needs to learn about those, and we need to create those platforms. Because one of the things that I learned is good platforms give you good ROI, but great platforms partner with you. They look at your data, they actually are doing work for you and build products that you don't have to build and anticipate. That's our job, that's what we do. And I think that's where, you know, I have built 4 multi-billion-dollar products and I want to build one more.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And every time there's an announcement, you know, globally around AI, we're now like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened only in the last 3 months or 6 months. So like, are you saying kind of that, hey, you know what, like technology will make everyone in this room's life a little easier in the next 3 years?
A whole lot easier if you're using Property Finder.
All right, okay. All right, very good. Greg, how about you? So, you know, what are some of the things that, because, you know, as a fund, you know, you always have a portfolio. Sometimes, you know, you look at, you know, short-term, mid-term, and long-term. So what are some of the stuff that you're excited about from a technology point of view that you think will come to life in the next 3 to 5 years?
So let's maybe continue on the topic of AI. Maybe I can give you a concrete example of technology that's already exists, that's starting to be commercialized. It's a company we invested in a few years ago together with NVIDIA, which is obviously the leader in AI these days. Think of a building. A building is very complex. It's infinitely more complex than a car. So we talk about autonomous car. It's a few data points that need to be managed. Buildings are thousands of different data points that are happening at every second, every minute. And so this company in the US called Passive Logic is the first fully autonomous building management system, BMS, that's enabling buildings to become fully autonomous. That's completely groundbreaking because by bringing autonomy into a very inefficient, opaque, antiquated building, you will reduce its energy cost by 40 to 60%, and you'll reduce the emissions by the same amount. And once you create that digital backbone of a building, it becomes the platform for the future. So every time there's going to be a new technology, a new device, a new IoT sensor, you can plug it into a pre-existing platform that aggregates the data. And then the more data you get to an amazing state of predictive maintenance. So buildings will be self-regulated. They'll be able to spot issues before they actually arise by virtue of having all this data. And that's completely transformational. Building autonomy into the built world is something that's going to change the industry forever. It will reduce the amount of labor that's required to operate those buildings. And that's true for commercial buildings, residential buildings, industrial, and so on. And so when you think, we talked about the 40% of emission coming from real estate, the best way to think about it is 1/3 of this 40% is coming from what we call embodied carbon, so everything that happens in the materials and the construction process. 2/3 is pure and simple operational emissions, so buildings that are heated, cooled, whatever you want to do. So if you can reduce that by 50%, you're eradicating the equivalent of the entirety of the transport industry, for example. And so at a time where people are rushing to think about climate change, we've had COP28 here at the end of the last year, it's important that people focus on the stuff that actually moves the needle, and it so happens that there is no other places than real estate. So again, I apologies if I'm repeating myself, but I think it's a very important topic. As important stakeholders of the industry, I think everyone should be energized and inspired by the fact that you can play a key role in transitioning this industry into the future with sustainability at the forefront.
Very interesting. Staggering numbers. It's 40%, 2/3 of it coming from the operation of a building that we can actually improve. And can you help us visualize what a fully automated building look like? Can you give us a few examples on that?
Well, it means that your building will start aggregating all sorts of data, whether it's the weather outside, the wind, the light, the occupancy, the expected occupancy, when people come in, come out, and start self-regulating. So some lights, the AC, all those things will start turning on and off as and when needed, as opposed to being on most of the day because someone switched some on and off whenever someone comes in. And those things might seem like really irrelevant, but given the size and the importance of the build stock, they add into massive numbers. So fully autonomous building means there will be fully transparent, very easy to reposition, very easy to retrofit whenever something breaks. I know that here there's a lot of new construction, but we'll have soon the first wave of buildings that will need to be shown some love and some upgrades. And so it's important that when you have all this data, you create full digital twins of any building. So every pipe, every wall, every screw will be digitally represented, which means it makes it very easy to take care of, to spot issues. And so managing a building becomes very, very simple, right, which is not today.
Yeah, amazing. And a lot of times we think these stuff are super far away, but it's it's a blink of an eye, and then suddenly the consumers, the buyers, the renters, they start asking about this as they hear about these technologies. So that's why it's important to think that, hey, maybe not today, but 3 to 5 years, this might actually be a much bigger part of our day-to-day than today. And okay, so we spoke about 3 to 5 years. Now let's go a little crazy. Okay, so let's look at a blue ocean, as they say, 10, 20 years ahead. So what will we see in online, technologies in real estate? Just go crazy.
Sorry, I think you shouldn't tell me to go crazy. It's a techie guy, I love go crazy. So I think some of the things, first thing is whenever you talk about future in farther, it's usually you look at past to kind of see where the direction will go. So the leap and bounds of computing power and data processing that we are currently seeing. When I built Amazon Prime Video recommendations, we processed 130 million customers' last 2 years of video watching history in less than 5 milliseconds. So that's what I'm talking about in 2014 when we launched in 180 countries. Now generative AI is actually pushing the limits of all the laws. What you are actually going to see is, before the building is built, I worked with WeWork at some point, and what we were actually looking at, can ML predict your output of an entire building data just looking at a lot, based on information that you already have from the market data. So today, if we know all the listings, I can point at a lot and tell the builder, build this many residential units, this many commercial units and whatnot, and they can play with AI and actually create an optimum design. move forward into, from agents when they are actually, looking at listings. I could actually look at, a feature in PF Expert and say autopilot and get certain rules and guidelines so that then it will manage business for you within the boundaries you set, and you could actually maximize profit, maximize margins, maximize, property output. So I think whenever you are looking at AI, what happens is the data processing, the things that we currently do, which are, we think that we are wasting a lot of time, you can put back and actually talk to customers and let AI do those mundane things. So I think if you actually think about those things, AI can actually go, can surprise us. Like Google thought that they are going to be the AI king, and there is a little company called OpenAI and can come and beat us. So I think it's the future is really, really bright.
Yeah, very good. Okay, great. And Greg, how about you? So if you go like 10, 20 years into the future, and like in UAE and Dubai specifically, that future can happen quite fast, as we recently saw in the past like 5 to 10 years. So what do you think will happen in?
I'll tell you that we have no idea what will be in 20 years because the future is happening at the fastest pace it's ever been. And my conviction is that the next 5 to 10 years will see more change than in the last 40 years. But I can give you some examples to extrapolate. If you break down, look what's happening in design architecture with generative AI. We're already starting to see software that can turn a building sketch into a full construction document, which normally takes 5 to 6 months and many, many architects, in the click of a button. That's completely transformational. It means we can build faster, cheaper, greener. We completely change the architecture industry, their margin profiles, the number of people that they need to deliver all those buildings that we need. Because, by the way, I think we need 2 billion homes by 2050 at global scale to just address the housing shortage. If you look at buildings once they are built, each building is going to become so intelligent that they're going to be active, not only consumer, but store and redistributor of energy. So they'll be active participants of the grid. We keep talking about the stress on the grid because of the need for power, all this electrification, the data centers, while buildings will become critical part of our grid infrastructure. And that's not 20 years from now, it's in the next few years. And then maybe to tie that up to what people like to hear today is about the transaction. I think, one-click transaction, the same way you buy a stock on the stock market, you'll be able to buy a house, an apartment, and that's, I think, happening faster. I think it's going to be easier in some places than others, and it's definitely, if I had to make a bet on a place where those things can happen faster, it's definitely here. Because I think what we have in other places in the world is we are limited by our legacy of 100 years of sometimes bad urban planning decision, by regulatory decision. I think here there's a relatively blank canvas, so I think that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I also believe that. I mean, if these futures are going to happen, they're first likely to happen around here, around us, which is a very big privilege to be in. Now, one last question to you both. If you were to leave one parting thought or action or inspiration for our group here, what would you tell them?
I would go to His Excellency's point earlier when he spoke about, you can't do everything alone. There needs to be a partnership. People need to work together. And if you want to see the change, be part of it. So I really think that if we really want to be part of that AI-driven technology platform that we are here to build, we can't build it alone. We need partnership, we need feedback, we need to learn from what are your biggest challenges, and then we can actually use our technology prowess to actually solve your business problems. So we are here for you, but it needs to be a partnership, it can't be just us.
Excellent, thank you. And Greg?
I mean, in extension of what I said before, if you look at Europe, 90% of the buildings that will be in Europe in 2050 are already built. In the region, so in the UAE and more broadly in the region, 80% are yet to be built. And so there's a unique opportunity to build the future that we can imagine and lead the way. I genuinely believe, having spent a lot more time in the region than last year, that this place can take a global leadership role, given the proximity and the, let's say, collaborative spirit between public and private, which sometimes doesn't exist in places like Europe, where we regulate before thinking about the economic impact or economic implication. Here, everything is tied up, makes sense. And so I think I'm extremely excited, and I believe that, again, as stakeholders of the industry here, the future is extremely, extremely bright.
Amazing. What an exciting place to be as the future is shaping up right before our eyes. Ladies and gentlemen, Greg and Himanshu.
Thank you.